Majora's Mask has been my comfort game for as long as I can remember. I take comfort in most 3D Zelda games to some degree and will often find myself going back to them if I feel the urge, but Majora's Mask has been with me through life's hardest moments. Through every breakup, every time my mental health has tanked, or when I've moved cities or even countries and had no friends to hang out with. It's the game I will consistently pick back up and use to help me get past whatever is going on. This year's replay wasn't even for any reason other than just a little nostalgic trip because I felt like it, but as I played more and more, I slowly began to realize how much I needed to be playing this game right now, how much it is helping me contextualize my situation, and honestly, it might be the most important playthrough of Majora's Mask I've ever had.
New Zealand will move to alert level 4 from 11:59 p.m. tonight.
On August 17th, 2021, all of Aotearoa New Zealand moved into alert level 4 lockdown. It has been over 80 days since that shift into a snap lockdown, and Auckland as well as select other pockets of the country are still under restrictions. Not only is it our longest lockdown, but now our government has given up on the idea of an elimination strategy in favor of whatever this traffic light thing is. My city and country feel defeated, like we're stuck in a loop, living the same day over and over again, losing sight of a way out, along with a hope that it will get better. But there is always hope, and that's what Majora's Mask has taught me this year. While I've always thought it was a game about finding hope, I never truly realized how much it is about the acceptance that comes with finding a renewed hope in a hopeless time. What makes this game specifically so interesting to talk about and why so many people, myself included, continue to think about it to this day is its overall ambiguity and just how differently you can interpret its themes, even on different playthroughs, and depending on where you're at in life. It might strike a different chord than it did previously. Having felt like I've been stuck in a time loop that is lockdown, a lot of what Majora's Mask brings to the table really hit home and made me reflect on not only what I've been going through, but also how differently everyone handles a danger staring them right in the face. The actual lore around Majora's Mask is muddy, especially since the Hyrule Historia retconned a lot of things, much to the dismay of the fanbase. But there's something I found interesting in the manga that leads a lot to the ideas I want to talk about moving forward, and will act as a good preamble going in. Thousands of years ago, a beast lived in solidarity, stuck in a realm where the air wasn't still, but also didn't move. His magical armor could grant the wish of anyone who chose to steal it. In the uncountable years he lived in solitude, many humans visited him, but all betrayed him. He grew a hatred for humans who did not want to be his friend, but all who wished to kill him instead. After a mysterious traveler tricked the monster into dancing himself into exhaustion, he turned his armor into Majora's Mask, sealing his power, and by extension, hatred away. After leaving Hyrule to search for his lost friend Navi, who leaves him at the end of Ocarina of Time, Link finds himself falling down the portal to a twisted mirror version of his homeland called Termina. Termina's name may be a little on the nose, but it works, seeing as terminals act as destination points in our lives both physically and metaphorically. And for Link, it's a manifestation of the point between having to grow up, accepting the fact he can't live the life he wanted. After Navi woke him up to talk to the Great Deku Tree, he needs to let go of not only his old life, but his friends too. How do you go on knowing you've lived the life of your adult self that saved the world, and that any decision you make could undo the peace you brought to a world? The idea of growing up and letting go is something I'm sure most of us have had to grapple with in one way or another. Something I really fixated on is this idea that Skull Kid is a manifestation of Link's resentment and inability to just let go. They both have fairies, they both feel isolated, and they both just want a life back they can no longer have. Skull Kid's childlike mischief, something that Link never got to have since he was thrust into a role of a hero at a young age, was then turned into disdain towards the very people he saved. All of the familiar faces around Termina are so compelling for multiple reasons, but I do enjoy the idea that deep within Link's heart, he held this bitterness towards the townfolks of Hyrule who had no idea what he did for them, and instead continued to treat him as an outcast from the forest. So leaving to find his one true friend who understood him the most was easy. Then, as that guilt ate away at him, manifesting this twisted realm of townsfolk now in peril as a result of his deepest, darkest desires. So, in order to find hope and acceptance in his life, he has to untangle everything he created. The most commonly praised aspect of Majora's Mask is its tone and themes. It deals with some pretty dark stuff, especially at its time of release and for a Zelda game. I mean, you have 3 days to save Termina, or everyone gets crushed by a moon that's inching ever closer by the second. Despite a very obvious looming threat staring the world in the face, some choose to ignore it. They either don't care that it's there or refuse to believe it will actually fall and want to continue life as normal. The head of the Carpenters preparing for the annual Clocktown Festival, Muto, says this:
"You cowards! Do you actually believe the moon will fall? The confused townfolk simply caused a panic by believing this ridiculous, groundless theory. You want answers? The answer is the carnival should not be cancelled."
To which the head of the guards, Vicen, responds,
"Seems that giant chunk of rock outside hasn't caught your eye. At this time of year, we are overrun by tourists. So why is it that the town is empty? Don't drag the merchants and soldiers into this."
In the middle of their bickering is the town mayor, lost for what action to take in the face of immediate and obvious danger. Fundamentalist Christian pastor and right-wing political activist Brian Tamaki urged the congregants of his church to protest the lockdown restrictions under the guise of showing their rights to freedom while also simultaneously taking $1.2 million in taxpayer subsidies. Shortly after, over 50 young adult influencers threw a party in the northern suburbs of Auckland in what can only be described as a super spreader event. When you're stuck in a loop, it's hard not to feel hopeless and frustrated by those who refuse to believe in a danger that's staring them right in the face, and the people who are desperate to have things return to normal, all while a government sits in the middle not knowing what action to take next. The people who inhabit Termina that aren't living in denial are usually in a constant state of anxiety and hopelessness. Andrew's fiancée has run away. The postman is anxiously stuck between the service to his job and wanting to flee for his life. Even the spirits are suffering unrest throughout the land. Link's tasked with solving not only his problem of trying to find his missing ocarina, horse, and saving the world from impending doom, but also everyone else's struggles they face as a result of Skull Kid's meddling. Melbourne had been in lockdown for 263 days, with some equally strict rules to our own here, before finally getting let out just a couple of weeks ago. While my situation feels dire, something that always helps put things into perspective is how badly other people may have things with similar circumstances. Yes, I've been stuck inside for over 80 days, but that's almost 200 less than those across the ditch. But we're lucky in my house. We all get along well, and we're all able-bodied and healthy, requiring no strict extra steps in order to stay safe. We just need to stay inside. My situation sucks, but I know there are people who have it worse, and that's what Link feels like he's going through. His situation of being stuck in Termina and a ticking clock to the end of days is rough, but as he explores the surrounding areas, he finds people much worse off than he is. So helping them is a way of getting perspective on just how differently people struggle. One of the stories that has always stuck with me the most is the one of Pamela and her father, locked inside a music box house deep in Akana Canyon. A family stuck inside both due to the dangers outside, but also the horrors within. The father spent his life researching the paranormal, so much so he let it consume him, literally, becoming a Gibdo, this world's version of a mummy himself. The best option for Pamela was to lock both herself and her dad inside for the foreseeable future, because it was the only safe option. Once Link is confronted with his new horrifying image taken on, he plays the Song of Healing, and helps the family return to normal, helping bring peace to a family who is in a much worse situation than the one he's currently in. The biggest impact I've felt on my life is not being able to play music live anymore. I really value live music. It's a great way to do something with your friends that can hopefully connect with anyone watching. My band had just started booking shows consistently, and I'd fallen back in love with playing music after years off. It felt good having another creative outlet where I got to hang out with my friends, drink beer, drive around, and play music. Then, just as quickly as it started, we were forced to stop. And the longer lockdown continues by the careless or even purposeful actions of people in my city, the more resentful I grow towards those who won't let me get back to what I love. Lulu, the new singer of long-time running all-Zora band, the Indigogos, has lost her voice after her recently laid eggs were stolen by the Gerudo pirates, causing not only turmoil within herself, but also in her bandmates, who are set to play the Clocktown Festival but now can't, not only due to Lulu's situations, but also the cancellation of the fest due to the impending world-ending disaster. Every member of the Indigogos shut themselves away in their rooms, and while they clearly hold no ill will towards Lulu, they are all visibly upset at no longer being able to perform live. Although the Indigogos don't get to perform, their manager, Toto, is hanging around the milk bar longing for a performance. When Link shows up with different forms and their various instruments, he's instructed by the old Zora to do a sound check. Initially, each individual section bothers the local horse track owner Gorman. However, when it's all pulled together, it reminds him of his childhood, quelling a long-held anger deep within his heart. Music has always been an important aspect within the Zelda franchise, and especially how literally it is used to heal people within Termina, but this moment has always stuck with me, given just how intensely listening to a longtime favorite song can help us through even the most hopeless times. When the government started easing restrictions to allow food service places to be open, strictly under delivery or takeaway only to avoid as much contact as possible, it did feel like a win for the people. Things were slowly but surely getting back to normal. But that came at the cost of the biggest spike and daily influx of cases we've seen in Auckland. So now we're left with an underappreciated and underpaid workforce who are so beholden to their jobs they face danger on a daily basis, forced into labor by a system that won't let them go. A story and character I can only truly understand today is the postman. He is so dutifully loyal to his work, delivering mail, so much so that even when the world is going to end, he refuses to walk away until given direct orders to do so. At different points of the 3-day cycle, you see him jogging around town, helping the citizens communicate with one another. He is one of the truly essential workers. As a kid, teenager, and even young adult who had yet to fully enter the workforce, it felt like a quirky character trait. A fun character who loves his job so much he'd be willing to die for it. Now all I see is a character in constant pain, pinned down by a system that won't let him go. Majora's Mask is ultimately about hope, but in order to find that first you need to accept new situations and changes in your life. So for that reason, Link and Skull Kid are mirrors of each other. They are both lonely and feeling abandoned by the only people they care about. At the very beginning, we see Link's inability to let go. He's searching for Navi after she leaves him in the Temple of Time at the end of Ocarina of Time. And after Skull Kid steals the 2 most important things in the world to him, he can't let go of those either. Epona is the only one left he can truly call a friend, and his ocarina represents his connection with Princess Zelda, whereas Skull Kid has had time to sit in his loneliness. After the 4 giants left him to stand watch over the land of Termina at the 4 temples, he was left alone to cry under a log in the rain. That sadness was turned to joy momentarily when Tattle and Tail, the 2 fairies who accompany both main characters, befriend Skull Kid. But then, just as quickly as it came, after stealing Majora's Mask from the traveling salesman, his general impish trickster nature turned from light-hearted fun to malice. Malice towards everyone who abandoned him or told him what to do. So he took all of it out on the people of Termina. But more importantly, he destroyed the very places his old friends, the giants, set out to protect. Poisoning the swamp to the south, freezing the mountains to the north, polluting the oceans to the west, and agitating the spirits into unrest in the east. Arguably the most beloved side quest in Majora's Mask is Andrew and Kafei's quest. After the mysterious disappearance of Andrew's fiancée, Kafei, she wants to find him but can't leave her job at a local Clocktown inn, so she sends out feelers for other people to find him. If you don't interfere with this quest at all, Andrew leaves town before the moon crashes, giving up hope of her lover's return. If you follow the thread, it is the longest quest in a game to get a mask, and one of the most interesting subplots. After Skull Kid changes Kafei's body into that of a child while still retaining his memories and ideas of being an adult, the local thief, Sakon, takes advantage of Kafei's new form, stealing the sun mask that would have united the couple in marriage. This is the devastation that causes Kafei to flee. He needs to find the mask so he can keep the promise he made to Andrew when they were young. Helping them leads to one of the most devastating moments in all of Majora's Mask. As you act as witness to the exchange of vows on the final night of the 3-day cycle, moments right before the moon is set to crash into Termina, they tell Link, "We shall greet the morning together," effectively spending what little remains of their life in each other's arms. When Link seals Ganondorf off in the Sacred Realm at the end of Ocarina of Time, he's forced back into his childhood body. He leaves behind an adult Zelda that he cannot be allowed to stay in love with, despite all they went through together and the promises that they made each other as children. It's just not something that can happen anymore. It's something that will take a long time to work through and accept. I have spent a lot of this lockdown hating people in Auckland who refuse to follow the rules, but that hatred is wasted headspace. It's fruitless to be angry at people I can't control. If a country or city is divided, then nothing will get done. Instead, it's better to let go of the failures of others and turn it into understanding. Understanding the frustration of someone who doesn't know when they can go back to work and provide for their family. Understanding for someone who's been fed lies by the wealthy who just want to exploit their confusion in uncertain times for their own profits. As time has gone on, my outlook has switched from blind rage to concerned acknowledgement for what other people might be going through. Do I still wish everyone would just stay inside and get vaccinated if they're eligible? Of course. But that doesn't mean I can't try and convince someone through connection rather than yelling or a quick dunk on social media, as hard as that is to resist sometimes. After Link defeats Egos to Akana, the former king of Akana, he is told how petty battles ruined the kingdom. Long ago, Akana was at war. The Garrow spirits are the manifestation of spies who died away from their homeland and are now just wandering in a land they don't know, unsure how to let go and be free. Just down a bit from the canyon, in the Akana graveyard, lies Captain Kita and the Stull Children, walking skeletons of the soldiers who defended the area during the war, all losing their sense of direction in death. Both sides lost. They don't know how to move on. Their spirits wander restless. It feels like the end result of Link and Skull Kid's battle, like it's a peek at how constantly being at war with not only our neighbors but ourselves has no winners, just losers. The second part of Egos' speech is about how believing in your friends and forgiving failures are feelings that have vanished from the hearts of those aimlessly haunting the area. If you don't hear from someone for a while, it's easy to think they've forgotten about you and moved on. While locked away inside, I've stayed to myself for the most part. Sometimes playing games with friends online, and sometimes generally catching up with peers from the community. But when it comes to my real life friends, well, I haven't really kept in touch. They didn't reach out, and I grew resentful, but then again, I didn't send the first message either. We all go through hard changes in our own ways, and just because we don't reach out doesn't mean we've forgotten one another. Part of finding acceptance is forgiveness. When Link cleanses all the different parts of Termina of their evils and sets the giants free from their corruption, he confronts Skull Kid on top of Clocktown Tower. He calls forth the giants and Skull Kid is freed from his curse of Majora, no longer a puppet to his deepest desires, having seen the true ills hatred can bring. And when the evil that is Majora is finally defeated once and for all by Link, Skull Kid cries and asks for forgiveness from his friends. He thought they forgot about him, so he lashed out. But sometimes distance can distort our friendships. At the very end of the game, right before the credits roll, the Happy Mask salesman says this:
"Whenever there's a meeting, a parting is sure to follow. Whether a parting be forever or a short time, that is up to you."
Link leaves his new companion Tattle behind, much like Navi left him, but he knows it's okay. They both do. Tattle thanks him for what he showed her in their time together, and their parting is on mutual ground. Link has finally learnt to let go of a friend who flew away and can now move forward with his new life, into a new life he's finally learnt to accept. I could replay this game once a year and have something new to say about it every time. Even all these years later, I'm finding new moments to gush about and making new connections with old favorites. When I first had the idea to start this channel so many years ago now, the idea of Majora's Mask being about hope and acceptance was the first video I wanted to make. I kept putting it off because I didn't know how to go about it in a way I thought would do it justice. But this felt like the right time. What's been interesting is being able to connect all the different themes within the game to different ways lockdown has made me feel, and this particular go around is one I will never forget. After a replay number I lost track of years ago, I was finally able to connect to the game in a truly meaningful way. It wasn't just replaying for nostalgia's sake. It helped me see there's still hope to get through anything, even during the days that feel the same.